Hey everybody, this is Martin, and I was on Reddit today, and I saw this post didn't have a lot of commentary, but it's a really common post of like what's the beginner's guide to the MCAT, and I thought what not a better video to make to kind of answer this as my I guess first video, and so the reason why I wanted to answer this specifically is because there's like specific questions that are answered in this post, and I'm going to reply with like a YouTube link that I just made to this post. And essentially, I'm going to try to answer all of these and kind of give my experience. And for context, so my name is Martin. I am now at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine. I got a 520 on the MCAT, and so that's all my authority is. I'm not an MCAT tutor. I'm not an MCAT expert, but I can at least share some of my wisdom and advice that I can do. So, question one: how may I go about goal setting and expecting obstacles? So, goal setting, I think this is a two-part, right? So, the first one would be something like be realistic. And then the other one is like figure out what you need. So let's go needs and realistic. Let's do realistic or needs first, right? So needs would be something like I need to get a 502 because I've been accepted into a BS MD straight path, and I just need a 502 to matriculate. Cool. A 502 is completely different from a 520. And if your goal is to be at one of the top med schools in the country, usually you have to at least have a high score to be kind of considered at those schools. And then after that, you have to have a very impressive application beyond that. The point of the story is if you feel like you need a 502 versus you feel like you need a 520, you might need to spend more or less time on the exam. Those are two extremes. I think that your goal for most people should be, I just want to do as well as I can on the test in the time that I allot myself, right? So a realistic time frame. Let's put it in here like realistic time frame 2 months I think is a great time frame. Some people go up to 6 months, and I've heard of people as little as 1 month crushing it, but realistically 2 to 6 months, maybe 3 is the average. I did 2. I think anything less than that, you're kind of putting a little too much to luck if you do anything less than that. Okay, so average needs, I want to get into a good medical school that's going to take care of me, that's going to set up my clinical rotations, and that'll probably be in the 514 range, right? That's like the average matriculant MCAT. Maybe it's 511, something around that territory, right? Now, if you do not care, you just want to be a doctor, like you could probably get away with like 508, 505, something like that, right? And I'm saying, and be safe, okay? And be safe because you probably get a spot at a DO school. Some MD schools might even, have a score that's around this. And this is like safe, like average. The rest of my application is fine. Where you don't want to be is the sub 500s. So that's just kind of you're starting to get into dangerous territory for sure. So be honest with yourself, set some goals, and then be realistic, okay? And so, are you a student who has always scored? Now this person mentioned AP courses, right? So this is probably, related to North America, US. Did you score really high on the SAT MCAT? Were you always the person that scored really high on the reading section of tests? Like, do you have that standardized testing knack? Okay, and I'm not going to compare this to you're just crushing it in undergrad. Like, you're a standardized testing guru, then, you might be able to get away with maybe less time and set a goal that's higher versus if you've always struggled with something like reading comprehension and you've always struggled with the MCAT and the the SAT and the ACT and things like that, and AP exams, like these standardized tests, you just don't figure them out. That doesn't mean that you can't do well on this test. But in my opinion, those tests they have the same theme. They have the same conserved backbone. And so you have to figure out how to crack it. If you didn't crack it the last 4 times, you just might need more time to crack it. If you cracked it, like for me, I took the ACT, okay, and so I didn't do well the first couple times I took it, and then something clicked, okay, and I had a 10-point score jump into the 98th percentile or whatever, right? So that was my journey, and so I kind of took that with me, and I used those tricks for the MCAT. That's how I would set that, okay? Expecting obstacles, we can kind of talk about that here, right, with pitfalls, right? So what excites you the most? I think the simplest thing is when I was studying for the MCAT, I knew that I was one step closer to medical school, okay? And then AKA to become a doctor, right? One step closer, right? So I had this feeling, okay, finally I'm studying for the MCAT. Finally, when I got the MCAT, I finally had the MCAT in my hand. Finally, when I was interviewing, I was getting closer and closer and closer, and you feel it. You're like, okay, I'm far, and then it starts kind of shooting up, and then you're here. Okay, then you're in the med school. That's a whole different conversation for another day. Okay, pitfalls to warn from the beginner. Okay, so here, let's start listing some out. Not being honest with yourself. What does this mean? This means that you, obviously this is pretty obvious what it means, but like examples for the MCAT, I studied for an hour, okay? I studied for an hour. And if you're not honest with yourself, you might say I studied for an hour. But if you're actually honest with yourself, you might realize, okay, I only studied for 10 minutes, okay? I did some year-old questions, and then I opened up a book. I kind of skimmed over it. I didn't really read it. I looked at explanations. I clicked through. Like, the reason why you have to be honest with yourself is because then you can identify things that you can improve. Be like, okay, well, I studied for an hour. I didn't actually. I studied for 10 minutes, and so I got a less optimal result. Same thing with like Anki cards, like, you know, identifying which cards you got right or wrong. There's a lot of things that being honest will just help you all around. Another one is being too focused on content. If you have above a 500 on a practice test, your content is squared away. You now need to do a little bit of content when you meet stuff that you don't know, and mostly focus on understanding that this test is 70 to 80% MCAT, okay? It's not 70 to 80% organic chemistry or like specific topics in this. It's 70 to 80% knowing how to take the MCAT, knowing how to suss out answers, knowing just things, okay? Specifically about the MCAT. And so you need to spend more time doing this. The other thing is not having a plan. I have a generic plan video in, I'm going to make a video. I literally have it recorded. I just didn't want to upload it because I'm upload shy, I guess. It's about having a plan, okay? So I have a plan. I'm doing content review, then testing, then I take 5 full lengths, etc. Another one is picking your resources, okay? So which resources do I pick? Okay, and this one is interesting because you might pick resources that are bad. You might pick resources that are good but expensive, okay? And so what you need is a place to kind of see all these resources and say, okay, I need a good chemistry resource. I know I need a good cars resource because I am not good at cars, but you know, physics and biology, I'm good. And full lengths, I just want to buy the WNC stuff. Do you even know what that is? So where do I find these resources? I will give you the answer right now. MCATresources.com. Okay, so MCATresources.com is a website that just has a bunch of resources on it that can be free or sorted by paid, practice tests. Like, you have a bunch of stuff on here, okay? And they're sorted. There's reviews, and hint, hint, I made it. So that is why I'm plugging it. But I think it's a great resource. So if you think it'll be helpful, it's a great place to start your MCAT journey. Okay, real talk. Opinion about this test. Worth studying for. Yes, it is worth studying for, okay? Well, because it kind of goes back to one step closer to medical school. But the second thing is, this is a test you have to study for. There's very few people who can just, sit down, take the test, and get a score, okay? So they get a score, and then not improve that score as they, okay, this is weird, as they continue taking the test, okay? So this is my score. I started out with X score, and then I had an X plus Y, X plus O. Let's do X plus O score, okay? And so the idea is, if your X score is good enough, then great. Your X score might be that 502 that you need, or 510 or whatever. You just sit down and you get lucky, right? But you can improve that score. Now, if you get a 525 your first go around, then, I've heard of that happening, but like, you're smarter than me, and smarter than most people who took the MCAT. So good job. And for most people, that is not the case. And so then comparing it with AP exams, hobbies, degrees. So, okay, let's do some like tier ranking here. Let's go hardest AP exam. For me, this was AP Chem, okay? All right, so then we have like SAT, ACT. You have the MCAT. I have not taken step 1, but step 1 just seems like it's a whole different beast in terms of just volume of content. Let's go hardest medical school exam so far. Let's see, hardest undergrad test. And then let's go chem plus physics double major. Okay, so because you asked about the degree, I was a chemistry physics double major. So where does this stack up? Okay, MCAT was the hardest, but it was a clean, you know, like you put in the work, you get the thing. Hardest AP exam, probably AP Chem would be somewhere like here. Hardest medical school exam, I wouldn't say was too crazy. Hardest undergrad test, I'm sorry. If you've ever taken E&M physics class, we had take-home tests that were 6 hours long. You could look up the answers, but you'd never find anything, and you'd spend 6 hours doing the exam, writing out the problems and working through it. Hardest medical exam would be probably something like here. Okay, I'm moving AP exam. Yeah, it's hard because it's cumulative. And then SAT, ACT is kind of really similar to the MCAT. And depending on how seriously you take it, I would say like AP Chem was a little bit harder. So like, I would say I'd kind of cluster these, like maybe somewhere up in here. These were like clean things. This hasn't been so far too bad. And then like getting a double major, honestly, that's just kind of putting in work over time. So, you know, yeah, MCAT was the hardest thing. It was the hardest thing because I had to put in 2 months of clean work, and otherwise it would have not panned out, okay? Did this take longer? Yeah. Were there days that I had to figure out more things for AP Chem? Sure. But, I mean, the MCAT's like 7 AP Chems, you know what I mean? And you could figure all these out, but then it just feeds into the MCAT, okay? All right, that's it. That's my you know, back of the Excalibur, back of the envelope advice on taking the MCAT. If you want to see that other video that I'm talking about, let me know. And good luck to you. You know, this is a journey, and you'll figure it out. And again, like, your score will improve if you put in the work in the right way. And yeah, there you go.